Good afternoon to everybody in Inia Tamil Nanbargale. Yeah, I would like to hold a speech in Tamil, but I think since we're here in America and also in combination with the AHA, I just do it in English today. So it's a very difficult task, I find, to stand here behind the microphone after so many accomplished speakers stood at the same place this morning, and you have heard so many wonderful speeches and so on. Moreover, at this hour, which my colleagues and I always call the rice coma hour, so which is after lunch. So it's not so it's not so easy to do this now here. In fact, I came here with the intention to hold a speech about Periyar and global humanism, in which I wanted to tell, or in which I wanted to show how difficult it is to make someone like Tandai Periyar, who is very, very deeply rooted in his home culture, although, I mean, he propagates very globalized ideas about humanism, self-respect, and so on, how difficult it is to make him understood and known in a European environment. But then something happened, so I was informed that I am going to receive a prize this afternoon. So the very appreciated K. Veeramani Social Justice Reward. And although I was overjoyed when I heard that I'm going to get this prize, I was also a little bit, well, I will not say that this comes later. So I wouldn't like to say I was shocked, but I started to ask myself, why should I get this prize, and did I deserve it, and if so, why? And so also a little bit on the request of our dear friend Dr. Soma Ilangovan, I'm just going to reflect a little bit about this now. This means I'm going to become a little bit autobiographical and just reflecting about what I have done to deserve such a prize. So in fact, after finishing my studies and after also finishing my first assignment as one assistant in one Indology department of a German university, I went for a longer time to India in 1984 to 86, about 18 months. I was at Tanjavur University, at Tamil University in Tanjavur, and it was for me like a little bit like starting a new life. I had twice before made short journeys to India, which was something completely different. This time I arrived in India in order to stay there for 1.5 years at least. So I had to get settled there, and I had to really come to know my environment. So what did I do? First thing is I did everything possible to get into touch with spoken Tamil, because by that time, when you studied Tamil outside India, when you studied Tamil in Germany, you just could do some classical Tamil and some highly literary Tamil. So you just learned to read text, to translate text, but you didn't learn to listen to Tamil and to speak Tamil. In fact, in that time, 1984, so not so many Tamils were available in Europe. This came after 1984, when Tamil people from Sri Lanka arrived in Europe. By now, we have sizable Tamil communities in every major town in Germany. But by that time, it was very, very difficult to find Tamil people at all in Germany. So there was no opportunity to speak Tamil and so on. So I came to Tamil Nadu knowing some literary Tamil, but not being able to speak Tamil. So I did a lot of things. I mixed and mingled with the people of Tanjavur, and what I mainly did also was I went very much to the cinema. So I started to appreciate Tamil cinema very much. I became, and I still am, a very great fan of Shivaji Ganeshan, because because he also speaks a very, very nice Tamil. He has a very, very good pronunciation. So it's very good to watch his films in order to learn spoken Tamil. But then I did something else. I bought myself a cycle, and I started to cycle around Tanjavur in a circle of approximately 60 kilometers around the town. And I went to villages, also a little bit remote villages, deep villages, and so on. And I started to mix and mingle with the villagers. By that time, it was not yet such a deep acquaintance with the village people, because my spoken Tamil was still very, very small. But after all, I made my observations in the villages. So what I remarked was that almost every village consisted of two different parts. There was one part where you saw people, especially the men, standing very much upright, wearing shoes, wearing big mustaches, and so on, and maybe showing a little bit of, I would even say a little bit of arrogance and so on, being well-settled people. And there was another part of the village where you saw everybody standing a little bit slumped, hands like this, and, well, you know what I mean. But by that time, I was not yet so conversant with social issues in Tamil Nadu. So only later on I understood that, the one part of the village was the so-called caste village, the other part, the settlement of the Dalit people. Okay, this was my first observation in village Tamil Nadu. I went back to Germany after the 1.5 years. I passed my PhD. Afterwards, then I had another opportunity to go for 2 years to Madurai University. So by that time, then, I was quite able already to speak some Tamil. So I bought myself, this time, a little bit social upgrade, I bought myself a TVS Champ. And with this TVS Champ, I could go in a large circle around Madurai, and I could really start to explore very deep villages, remote villages. And since I spoke Tamil, I also started to mix and mingle with the people. I got acquainted with one family in Madurai later on that was to be my in-laws' family. So I married someone from Madurai. And so I had people who came with me to the villages, introduced me there and so on. And I started certain research projects in which I explored village Tamil culture. And I was very much drawn from the beginning onwards to what we would maybe call folklore, with which I mean the non-Brahmanic culture of what in the Brahmanical system counts as the lower castes. And I was very astonished myself that just by inquiring into the cultural features of the people, into the arts and crafts which they practice and so on, I saw how people became proud that I was interested in these kind of things, and how they started to carry their heads maybe a little bit higher than they did before. So they saw that somebody from outside came, was interested in their arts, in their crafts, and also appreciated these kind of things. And so this gave them a little bit pride, this enhanced, so to say, their self-esteem. Then later on came, I returned to Germany again, and then there was a phase where I really had the opportunity to stay in India for a very long time, so for 6 to 8 years with short interruptions. So I was in Pondicherry at the French Institute, where I undertook some research work and so on. And by that time, I started very, very consciously to do research in village culture. So I did 2-3 different village projects, always focusing on arts and crafts of the so-called low castes. So I got very much acquainted with these kind of people. And then I shifted my house to a village about 20 kilometers away from Pondicherry. By that time, I was already together then with my husband, with my Tamil husband. And when we came to this village, a number of very interesting things happened. First of all, it was the way of how we became accepted in this village. So my husband also, he was a stranger in that village because he came from Madurai. Pondicherry is in northern Tamil Nadu, in the northern Tamil region. So he also was a stranger to this region. But we were very, very well accepted in the village. So we we bought a house of a former landowner who left the village. So you can imagine it was an old house, a somewhat big house, and in the center of the main village. And first thing which we started to do is we came across some families, 2-3 families, in which they had just decided not to send their girls to school, just to send the boys in the family to school, and completely without the intention to do some social work or to do something like that. It was just a very natural reaction. We talked to the parents. I raised some money from some friends in Germany in order to give a little incentive to the parents and so on. And we just could bring it about that these 3 girls, they were sent to school. So this was the first real achievement which we did in terms of social service. I don't want to get claps for this because I'm not here to praise myself. I just want to show you that even with very, very small gestures and very, very small things which we do almost without big intention, I mean, we can still achieve some very good things in terms of social service, in terms of humanist ideas. This particular village had a very, very good Dalit leader. It also belongs to a Dalit constituency, so that the MLA of that entire region came from a Dalit village. And so things were already quite well developed for the Dalit integration in this village. But then the Dalit leader, when he saw that we had come and settled in this village, one day he dared to come to our house and spoke to us, and he just openly asked us so my husband and myself, to mix and mingle and to help in the Dalit development programs which he had started. So we did this, and I could get certain amounts from the German consulate in Madras, so we could build a community hall in the Dalit settlement. But the major achievement was that we could bring Dalit people into the main village, and since they got entrance into our house, also the other houses were then by and by opened to them, so they could go there, they could find work there, especially also a little bit more aged women who otherwise would not have had any opportunity to earn some money and so on from the Dalit settlement. They came into the main village now, found some jobs there as housemaids or as people who worked in the garden and so on. And the entire Dalit integration got a real boost through this. We were not very conscious of that we gave the Dalit development in this village such a boost, but we were later on, we were told by the Dalit leader of the village that it was because of our involvement into the Dalit affairs in the village that there was an enormous boost, and within only a few years, 2-3 years, a complete integration of Dalit people into the village took place. And I think this is the major achievement which we have done in terms of humanitarian things and social development and so on. And I think before this background, maybe I can this afternoon with a very good conscience accept the prize and go home with it very happily. There is a certain sum of money attached to this prize, which I will definitely pledge to further social developments and to further social work and so on. So thank you very much.